Ready?
Let me hit the button. Come on, I think we're good. Started. Yeah.
How's it going? You mind if we sit in?
Have at it.
Have at it.
You go.
Meeting. Thank you.
Yeah, no.
So you want to call us into session?
Hmm?
You want to call us into session?
Yeah, I thought you just did.
Okay.
We're now in session.
Look at the agenda. We don't have any minutes today, right there.
No minutes. I will get those caught up. Like I said, I've been trying to get the park stuff online.
You want to pass the bills around?
We have to get two bills, the monthly Whitewater bill and the bill for the second round of leak detection. Shout out to Jesse again. He's definitely, he's been good. And then also I'd like to ask you to vote now to authorize me to sign the bill from Brazza for the repair, which hopefully will be in that same 6,000 ballpark,
The second bill.
the second bill. Just so they don't have to wait for the next meeting to get it paid.
I'll make a motion that we allow Dan to sign the bill in our stead. It's like the Bronson Construction and repairing the second leak on South Farm Road.
Second motion.
We're letting Dan sign the next bill from Bronson for the second leak.
What was
They
it?
seem to be about
Is it unanimous? Or absent?
a month behind that billing.
Yeah, he is. Must be nice to have his money.
And,
Still, built the nicest building on 140. I'm sorry. Every time I go by it, I look at it and I go,
it's nice, and I think it's good to have that as an example of like, that's what we want to see.
that stone front was 20 grand, but
Yeah.
he told me. In a little farmer's porch, that was 20 grand for that, but he thought it would look good going by.
No, it looks a heck of a lot better than the blue monstrosity.
Yeah, did you want any pipe?
Or is it?
What?
Did you want to read pipe?
Not unless that's, we'll talk, we get it. I don't know if you want to jump around or how you
Well,
want.
why don't we discuss certified water operator and clerk?
So,
See, now you put it on the agenda.
I was gonna write something up, but I haven't had time. I'm trying to figure this out so we're paying $10,000 a month for the town system and $10,000 a month for the town owned public water, or $10,000 a year. A year, so
Yeah.
to Whitewater, to be our certified water operator. And I think
Is
it's,
that outside of the testing?
that's the contract. It's like,
Okay,
it's about 10 grand a year for each one private, one's not.
That includes,
that includes all the testing.
That's everything. Well, so it includes the tri-monthly bacteria testing and the residuals, all the random, lead and copper stuff we pay out extra for that.
And now the PFAS.
PFAS, freaking
PFAS.
$300 a sample.
Okay,
Hey, so apparently, 28 Hastings Street, the old airport plaza.
Yep.
93 is what they're getting for PFAS, so could be worse. I guess not surprised, it's an old in the 40s, but
93 parts per trillion.
Yeah,
That's
that's
count.
what
Yeah,
they're,
that's.
thankfully, we're under 20, but,
That's brilliant.
and I'm hoping the new deeper well will get us deep enough to, anyway.
all right.
So anyway, get back to.
So my thought is, if, and this is something that, we try to bring up to some of the union negotiations. I could get certified. There's probably a way to just pay me some sort of a stipend, easily far less than the 20,000 a year we're spending, to do the work. A lot of it I'm already doing,
And,
shutting valves off, changing meters.
and who would do the testing?
So I looked into this. I would have to get certified.
Yeah.
If Vin were agreeable, I think I have to be on probation. He has all the licensing, so that's one option, or we could contract somebody to serve as the supervisor for the 6-month probation period. It's not, I think I can just go take the test. I don't even think we just need D1.
For small system operator.
Well, VSS for the town stuff, for the public system, I think it has to be that first D1 level, but even that is not crazy.
If you're gonna contact with DEP,
I have not reached out to get the formal thing. I tried to talk to Sue Connors, but she was hired.
yeah, so a lot of it's still working, all working.
She retired.
Yeah, Sue's done.
She knew us really well. But,
Anyway, it just was a thought that
I-
like, it would save everybody, I could get paid for the work I'm doing, the town saves money and the same work gets done.
I don't have a problem with the concept there. The issue I have is you're already underpaid because we know you're putting in more than 5 hours a week. I mean, let's face it, you have been from day one. And that's all the budget will pay. Will they allow you to be a town employee and to receive a separate stipend?
Well, so what I had
Board on top of that?
what I had proposed, and this is kind of still how much we can talk about in public meeting. So I get 30 hours for parks, I get 5 for water.
Yeah.
They're currently giving me 3 for some town hall, like tech maintenance
Yeah.
stuff, and then there's 2 extra hours. All we need is a provision in the contract that would authorize me to also receive stipends authorized by the water board. The key is that it's all in the same contract. It's within the contract. I mean, you could make it an hourly rate. They want to pay me an, 5, 6 hours. I don't know. I don't know the best way to structure it.
But where is that contract is nowhere though, the town,
But once it's approved, that would be a provision. It
how many
just,
years now? I mean, you guys have
what's it,
got nowhere, in what, 2 years?
3-year contract. It was up July 1.
And you're not getting
Still
anywhere
in
in negotiations.
negotiations, which we can't really talk about.
Yeah, well, I like the idea.
I
We
just,
have money in the budget to pay for the training.
I don't think there is any training. That's it's just, I mean, take a couple classes to learn the thing.
Yeah, well, you gotta pay for the classes.
It's not extensive training. I mean, we talked before about the cross connection and that stuff. It just, and it isn't necessarily a thing that needs to happen tomorrow. It's just, we're paying all this money to Whitewater, the services, whatever. We've been able to have Braza for the big repair jobs now. Sure, Whitewater's happy to come out and do hourly stuff if something comes up.
Yeah,
So you've got a backup.
yeah, I mean, well, we're lucky Paul lives right on the system. I
Yeah.
mean, his things on the system, his rates are decent compared to other people. So we're lucky to have him. I don't have a problem with the concept of you, but if you need to get it worked into the contract, then it depends on the progress of your contract.
Yeah,
The town hall employee's contract, which as I understood was in limbo.
well, that's, so I mean, if this, if that's something you guys are in favor of,
He's our expert on certification.
I was gonna say 2 things.
Yeah.
First off, with the money that we pay RHY, break it down to how many hours they're actually providing us, if you break it down per month. That way they would come up with all figures based on the amount of time they work here. But the other thing is too, as far as the regulatory stuff, and I can do this on my end too, Dan, but if you could reach out, I belong to a different region. I belong to the Northeast region, but yeah, so say Central Mass, Central Region. It used to be a woman that was in charge of the Central Region. I'm not sure who it is now.
That was Suka.
It was Amy.
it's she reached out about some PFAS stuff. I can reach out.
But anyways, yeah, you should reach out anyways.
And get more
Represent
info on what-
Amended Park. Just establish contact with them and then find out from them what the requirements would be for you to take on that responsibility. Now, granted, you'd have to be licensed. Find out from them if you could work under my certification. I've got a T4, D4, I've got all the
Yeah.
things that, above and beyond what are really required here because we're.
Well, it looks like-
systems.
You can get VSS, you just take a test. VSS will cover the town.
Still go to school.
No, VSS, you just go take a class. Or you take the thing and you got it. It's the bare minimum.
Okay, I'm saying,
Yeah,
you
no, I'm
want,
just from a regulatory standpoint.
you want to have the training on
Yeah.
your belt because you're
Okay.
going to have to take a test and people aren't born with this knowledge, so you want to have some training. That's why I'm saying that. It's worth the spend the money to cover.
And I'll just join in with that. As somebody who has to get recertified every year, take the classes.
Right, you would have to take classes regardless after you get certified, just to
Maintain
Right.
continue education units in order to maintain that certification.
And Dan, don't sell yourself short. In my view, if you get special certification, the stipend, if you can get it into the contract, the stipend should be at a higher rate than whatever we're paying if you did for the hours of town employee, because you're now trained with the special degree.
That was my reason for suggesting maybe the mechanism would be through a stipend to say, you've got the 5 hours a week. That's just answering the phone, the billing, the
Right.
mail. And then the stipend is almost outside of the day-to-day job. So my guess is Whitewater, what we're getting is roughly 5 hours a month. It's three bacteria samples at 2 locations and, once a quarter, some test.
But
has to
that
be-
5 hours is a lot higher than what your rate is. So then
Oh,
Leave it at stipend.
what they're, I mean, if you divide $900 by 5,
Yeah.
it's $180 an hour.
Yeah.
So that's my point is,
Yeah.
there's plenty of room to compensate an internal person
Yes.
fairly,
Sure.
still show a savings. Like it's
Right.
all,
Well, you need to be, you need to be compensated for a client had additional licensing.
Right, what
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
saying is don't settle for your hourly town hall rate.
oh, no,
If you get those licenses, the stipend should be at a, you know, at least, not 180 an hour, but at least, you know, in the $30 an hour up range.
I think that the number I came up with, just doing math, would be somewhere in the equivalent of $900 a month versus the $1,700 a month we're paying.
If
You
if
know,
we
or
can make
something,
it,
you know, I don't know.
if we can make it work, I'm in favor.
You know, plus, I mean, we were paying $60 a pop to change meters. You know, even that would be at least, you know, again, it's because some of it is like, I could go out and knock out a bunch of meters, but I'm not gonna go out and do that if I'm not getting paid for it. So they just don't get done.
Right, you gotta keep in mind that one of the things that we're relying on with certification is liability with it. So
Right.
if anything goes wrong with the sample or anything like that, they assume that responsibility.
Well, we'd have to.
Because we're relying on the license,
Covered.
so, yeah. And that's why the added pay too, because it's
Well-
taking on responsibility and liability with that.
I would say just follow Vince's suggestion, talk to the DEP,
Yeah,
find out what you need, put together what you think the hours we're paying Whitewater versus what the savings will be. Come back with it. Do you have feelings on it?
Yeah, sounds like a wonderful idea. It sounds like getting the mechanism and the pay rate and stuff sorted out.
Yeah, and
It's gonna be a problem nuisance with.
Where are you with the contract? Because you're in a contract right now, so is that gonna require an opening in the contract?
so I'm hesitant what can be discussed in an open session. The contract is expired and up for being negotiated.
it's being negotiated, and from what I understand, it's a stalemate. Because on my other board, I'm the supervisor of someone in it, so
Okay, yeah,
I can say that. But
you're right, we can't discuss that.
no, we can't, it's a legal issue, but on the other hand, I like the idea, Dan. You know, you're doing some of it now, you might as well get certification and compensation. And quite honestly, that would make me feel better about the time you're already putting in beyond the 5 hours a week. Because you'd finally be getting compensated for it, because, you know, I bring it up every year at the budget hearing, and we get a blank stare, like, isn't that great?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's, you know, the testing stuff is not a big deal and it comes in waves. So you have like when the stuff hits the fan, so that's, you know,
Yeah.
8 or 9, 10 hours.
The last couple of water.
And the next week is not.
Above and beyond Call of Duty.
Right. So, and,
Yeah.
you know, I think but you
Yeah, I
know,
mean, I showed up at the end of the day at the last one, and you had been there all day long, they
Right.
said you
Yeah.
just left.
Yeah.
So I mean, at the first break, I mean, you were there, what, around the clock for 2 days?
you know, and I mean, I guess alternatively, you know, I think we may also consider looking at going out to bid again on this contractor thing. You know, we did contract with this company because we were screwed and it made perfect sense, but I think now we're at a point that we can explore
You mean, what,
Whitewater.
Yeah.
You know, because you know, we're very small.
look, when Hopedale left us in the lurch with a day's notice, literally, or 6 days' notice. They stepped in the gap, they were available, they're good. We've been using them for 4 years, 5 years now. And they're very expensive for a town our size and for a system our size. And if we can do it, you know, better, cheaper, faster with you and a combination of another one, I'm all for it. I mean, you know, we get fat, dumb and happy. They met our need. They're not a problem child.
Yeah.
You know, and we just go, okay, sign the bill. But you're right, at some point we have to look at alternatives, and I commend you for doing that. Because, you know, quite honestly, we need to think of things like that,
Yeah,
which, you know, municipal government doesn't always do. So I commend you for it.
yeah, go ahead and see what it takes to make it happen.
I'll see what DEP has to say. I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
you know, it's back.
and
you know,
again, ask if you can work under his licenses for that. What is
Yeah,
it,
I'll find out.
probationary?
The interim.
You know, that's something we'll have to check and maybe verify with ethics too, that there's no potential conflict. I mean, I don't see why there would be, but just to make sure that we follow all the rules.
Oh, trust me, someone will complain, you know that.
But ultimately, the answer to the DEP, so
Yeah,
make sure. we're-
and I think, you said briefly before the meeting, I think that, there's just basically nothing's getting, and now it's like we finally looking at this stuff and, in terms of plans and where things are.
Well, we got to handle all the system. All right, what do you got next?
Old business.
Oh, the Cape Road connection. Did they
So-
Hopedale?
They met with Hopedale, discussed whatever they're doing, parameters, size of the building. The last I heard is Tim was gonna bring it back to the board and see if they could work out something about the fire connection. I mean, it sounds like potable water is absolutely off the
Well,
table.
we knew that.
I mean, it's kind of unfortunate because I think we could have gotten them to pay for a major new meter kit, but whatever.
This is for the people in the audience. There's a warehouse proposed for Cape Road. And that's what we're talking about, that they came to us for basically a water connection for the sprinkler system. But I mean, I'd like to get it off our plate because quite honestly, other than the fire connection thing, it doesn't belong here. Whether or not it gets built does not belong with this board.
Yeah, and
You
I,
know, if they get approval from the zoning and planning boards, then they gotta come back to move our the water main that's on Winton Road. But I'd like to get this thing off our table because in reality, it's not our thing.
the impression I got is that he's looking to understand what he needs to know before proposing if they move forward their design. I guess I can reach out. I haven't heard from him in a month or two, and then all the leak hit the fan and just say, hey, I don't know if you heard any more. I mean, Tim didn't mention it when I
No,
talked to him.
but so bottom line is the developer okay with going forward with just fire protection without the domestic water?
I think the developer is looking for any opportunity that might save him a little bit of money or effort in his design. So if he can have a fire connection, great. If not, I think they're happy to just put a tank in and they'll spend the extra whatever on the pumps.
Okay.
I think the fire flow in that area is so abysmally low that the existence of the connection it's not like a huge deal breaker to them.
Right.
They're probably still gonna have, I mean, he was talking 300,000 gallon tanks still and pumps. It just gives them another option. They have some hydrants. So like I said, I don't think it's a deal breaker. I think he's just trying to understand what he can and can't do.
But it's no different what the end zone put in, the tank they put in. It's no different than what the town put in for the new police
Does the
station.
end zone have a tank too? Because they're tied into up there. They might have better flows.
They have a huge tank.
Really? 'Cause they have a sprinkler for that.
When Ernie was the fire chief, he made them put in the tank. At like $300,000. 30,000 gallon tank sitting in each dealership and another sitting in front of the dealership. I mean, we don't have water. That's what you do
Yeah, I
to
mean,
lower insurance. So whatever this guy does, it's just, I don't want to see it on an agenda every month if it doesn't have to be, because we're not the authorities deciding whether or not it gets built. We accommodated him. We went to Hopedale to introduce him. And if you cut a deal with Hopedale, that benefits Hopedale's relationship with us, but we don't get anything out of it.
no, all we get is, a couple $100 a year and some fees, which is nice, but not anything special.
Right, but since we depend on Hopedale,
It does sound like if they were to build this, regardless of what happens, they are gonna have to rebuild that section of the water main, so get something new out of it.
Right. And get it upgraded.
They'll have to come to us with plans, and that'll be a separate discussion, but
well, I'm sure if the tenant is who everybody thinks it is, they'll get it back in rent. So. The world's richest company or second richest company can certainly afford it.
So Dan, how is it then? Is somebody gonna get back to us or?
this is classic, just from Hopedale.
Hurry up and wait.
So I was gonna meet with Tim and then we canceled, so not about this, about something else. And I was gonna ask him just, hey, did you talk to anybody or what's the deal? But
So we just don't know anything now?
no,
Okay.
I can reach out to Connor and just.
Did they already submitted plans to the planning? board?
No,
They-
Concept.
Everything's all conceptual right now.
no, all they did is did a very brief, whatever they call that first review.
Yeah, right.
They're working on, it might be done now with Concom, just an initial ANRAD.
It's more of a, this is what we're thinking of, give us your reaction to it.
Yeah.
And from what I understand, they got a lot of reaction from everybody. And I think that they're having the wetlands flag down there, but, you know, I just wanted understood, you know, we have no stake in this game.
Now, the one thing, is presumably if they have to move the water main, which is necessary, they would continue to have the same number of fire hydrants.
So he had asked about adding a I mean, so right, it's very strange down there. So there's the hydrant on Terry Lane, I think is gone. It does, I mean, I can't find any site of it. There's 4 or 5 down Witten, but the ones in the middle don't work and the gate valves are gone. So I almost wonder if they pulled the gate box and buried the valve. Like years ago, there's something in the minutes about discontinuing those hydrants. So the one at the top works and the one at the end works for flushing.
But you gotta remember, the original proposal for that site was a 40B affordable housing project.
Well, no, that was the later original.
Okay.
I mean, this is way before.
Okay. But then they neglected to find out it was the flight path of the airplanes landing at Hopedale Airport, so that got killed.
Plus they lost.
Yes.
Milford. But so anyway, I get the impression, again, based on our dealings, the way the hydrants work, we pay a rental fee to Hopedale for those hydrants.
Yeah.
Right.
So if they're keeping the hydrants that are there and just moving it slightly, it'd be the same. If they're adding hydrants, then we'd have to get some money to offset that or charge them, you know, they can pay that $200 a year for
Yeah,
that
if they
hydrant.
want more hydrants, they could pay for
I mean, I'm surprised that Hopedale isn't jumping on this fire hydrant, a fire connection, because Hopedale's attitude is we'd love to make more money and not have to have any more water go out.
Well,
Yeah.
remember what Tim said at that meeting, you know, they're desperately short of water.
Right. But a fire line uses no water, it just sits there off. And if there's a fire, but if there's a fire, they're hooking up to the hydrant anyway, same water,
Yeah.
doesn't change anything.
All right, but I don't think we need to put it on the agenda every month unless they get back to us.
Yeah, I think at
I
this
just
point,
wanted it on
yeah.
today, so we all know where
That's
it
what we're doing.
was. But
I mean, I don't even think they've, after that, it was a while ago with the Concom, and I don't think they've been back since for that.
because in reality, you know, even if we got approval, Hopedale approval of fire line, it doesn't mean it's getting built. It just means, you know, it still has to go through the planning and zoning boards.
You know, and we should probably pay attention to those, make sure that, you know, if we need to have input related to the moving of the mains when those hearings come up.
Oh, definitely, but I mean, if it shows up on the agenda, but I haven't seen it on any planning agenda.
And from a fire safety point of view, it's all a good thing and not a bad thing. And it costs us no money, no time.
Yeah, I just, you know. I don't like the association in people's mind that we're somehow approving this project, because we're not. But anyway. What did you have next, Dan? Oh,
Water commission involvement and.
select board study.
A little bit on this for you.
Yeah, I really like to hear that.
Not just anything.
I did listen to the select board meeting where they discussed it with the town planner.
So Jack, so first of all, I think I put the other, I don't know if I put the other stuff on there. Brian Murray sent us the information from somebody with the state to get the info on all this and the earmarks
For our earmarks.
for our money, all the money. This is like 4 earmarks, the well, our money.
Okay, so we have it now in A&E,
No, so Jody is working with the gentleman from the state to sort that out. So I'll keep you posted on the 50,000.
which I want to talk about after this topic.
The 50,000 for the town hall well is not our money, so we don't care.
Right.
Been a problem. And then Jack Hunter has been talking to there's somebody, the 150,000 is with DEP,
Yes,
and he's been talking to somebody about what we need to do to get that money sent over to the town, or how that, if it's a reimbursement. Jack talked to a couple of engineers or something, some sort of consultants, and it sounds like we need another 150,000. He's working on, or is writing another grant to try and get some additional funds. And this is all about a townwide study, is what they're looking at. So townwide water specifically, I think, focusing on this area, 16.
which curiously, we are not being asked to be actively involved.
I don't think anything's happened, to be honest with you. I think Jack is doing work behind the scenes. I think his intention, the last time I talked to him, is to see, like, have each group appoint a representative. So somebody from water, somebody from the select board, somebody from whatever, to have like a group that could come together and then present their findings as needed. But at this point, I'm not even sure we're at a point that we're soliciting
Good.
a
But
firm.
just my take on watching that select board meeting is there's no overt mention by the select board that we even exist. And as long as Jack, the town planner, wants us involved, good. Because at some point, if the select board goes ahead with this, it keeps ignoring us. We're gonna have to go raise our hands and go, excuse me. Legally and statutorily, it's none of your like business, it's ours. You just got the money.
Yeah, I mean, that was the last I heard from him, is he was thinking that you'd have a few people, like we tried to do before, that can
Bring
do the
people.
legwork.
Yeah.
And then bring back to meetings and say, all right, these are the findings, we need to do RFP,
Now.
blah, blah, blah.
We got a planner now, he can do
Yeah.
the legwork.
Right, well, I mean, I think
I
that's
mean,
what his job is.
Yeah, but I mean, basically, we were running around on our own trying to do a lot of stuff, and he could do it now. I just don't want duplication of effort, which is what we're having.
No, the only thing I would, and I think he knows, I almost think the best option is to extend the existing system than to do something new. When you talk about distance, it's a mile shorter to go from Talbot Fox Plains Road or Mill River to
Yep.
the center of town
Yep.
than it is to go to Uxbridge.
And we
And-
go through all town and land.
I know people don't want to hear it, but you've got tons of potential developments in the 140 area and existing commercial zones that are just waiting for potential water, or even just housing, like the gentleman we talked to that wanted the houses on Hartford Ave. He's done nothing because he's
He's
not
got
working
it
to
for
think a
sale.
well.
He's got up for sale.
So I don't know.
Well, I mean, we can't
And we're
basically,
stuck with this ridiculous thing with Hopedale. We're paying through the nose for.
But that's what the study's gonna flush out.
Mine is, yeah, it's that this is gonna look at, you can do A, B, C, it would cost
They're gonna give us
this,
options.
or,
right,
it's not, don't waste your time sinking a well in Mendon because it's never gonna happen, that kind of thing.
Right.
Where's the water?
okay, and just in regard to that unnamed town that we can't name in public, they need to wait until June when a well field comes back online, and then they can determine if they're willing to talk to us. But I did meet with their water board as we discussed. And that was the answer was, we're open to the idea, once that well field comes back and we know exactly what we're facing in terms of usage and potential usage, they'll entertain talking to us. So,
Yeah, I mean, I said, just for people who are on, it's worth pointing, like, even when we talked to Bellingham, the maximum rate they were charging us was like half of what Hopedale's charging us.
oh, absolutely.
I mean, we were potentially gonna finance the whole deal within the whole existing rate.
If you remember, they were gonna charge a connect fee, their highest fee, a connect fee for everybody in the system. All I remember is we could finance it with our rates and they would gain 2 years worth of capital expenses for their water system. And we could actually, after the connection fees were paid off, we could lower the rate, which I think is tremendous, but unfortunately, as we all know, that got presented the wrong way to Bellingham and sank like a rock.
So, Dan, I was gonna say to this study, we really should be involved with the scope.
Yeah,
Well,
let me-
Is the town planner, is anybody spoke to an engineering?
that's what I don't know.
It's-
I think he just very briefly did, and the
Because
kickback is we need more money.
Even a consultant is not gonna give you a price
I know.
without having a scope of service, and that's some of the stuff that we need to be talking about. In order for them to provide us a cost estimate of what it's gonna be.
That was my point, Scott, is right now, we're not in that loop. It's the select board and the planner. But whatever they determine eventually falls in overlaps.
Right.
Well, so why don't we see,
So, why aren't we involved from day one? You know, they didn't even have the courtesy of telling us they got that grant
Well, that, you know,
or that they had applied for it.
you said, and I said something too, and then, you know,
It's a money
it's
base.
just stuff happening in parallel. It's a waste of time.
They asked for 300, they asked for 300 out of the state's ARPA money, it got trimmed to 150.
Yeah.
Because they trimmed everybody in half.
So we're gonna shoe one study based on the money we have and not really what.
Well, we have local money too, if we chose to spend, you know, I think the idea was to save the money for the work.
Yeah, but you remember at the finance committee meeting, I told the finance committee, you see the look of the select board? When I reminded the finance committee that twice we asked the select board for that ARPA money and, you know, that request disappeared to the, and, you know, Kim and the board know what they want to do with that money. We're never going to get to see it.
But, so I guess the question, you know, do we want to wait, or, I mean, it might make sense if we can set up a meeting like meeting with you or with Kevin, with Jack offline, or if we want to wait till.
I'd like to do an offline because right
Just
now,
focus on just the scope of this study.
instead of applying for a grant for the other 150,000 he needs, we've got 1.6 million in ARPA money sitting there doing nothing, but earning interest. There's 150 is in there and it doesn't even make a dent in that one. So you could finance a comprehensive study tomorrow if you get the select board to realize, you know, you can't park on that money. That money also has to be allocated by 24
Right.
and spent by 26 if it's on water and sewer. So if, what do we get, 1.6 million? 1.8 million, take 150, match the state grant, get the study done. And the other thing is, just like our 50,000 earmark, that money has a timetable to be spent.
Right.
And then, as you said, let's get on a committee.
Yeah.
Maybe we ought to just have a meeting, invite Jack into another meeting and say, you know, we need to be into this.
Yeah, I mean, it would
Because
be-
I'll tell you candidly, you know, I'm up for election on the board. I knew you were, but, you know, I've been on it a while. After watching that selectmen's meeting, my first reaction is say, why am I bothering to run if they're going to ignore this board? I mean, in reality, I don't want to spend the next 3 years of my life fighting with the select board over something they don't have the knowledge of and really shouldn't be involved in. It's, hey, guys, you got the money. That's great. Give it to the people who, oh, no. You know, it's the people who know what they're doing with it.
Right.
But let's set up a meeting. I mean, I think he's in town on Wednesdays, which might be the best if we, you know, if we're around during the day. I don't know if we got some time or we can set up a time or an afternoon.
Look, I'm 15 minutes away,
That would be.
or I'm 20 minutes away by car. And you're, what, half an hour?
I think if two of you are coming. we gotta
You're
post
10
it.
minutes away.
And so it's away and my company opens the end.
Yeah.
So,
Let me talk to Jack and see if we can just nail this
I
down.
mean, if you can get them on a Wednesday afternoon, and you know, if you want to get them the beginning of the day, end of the day, lunchtime, just let me know. I mean, like I said, Alan's 10 minutes down the road. I'm 20 minutes away in Holliston most days. Oh, yes, folks. Yeah, well, that's fine.
Yeah, we're just gonna make sure we do that. I mean, technically, you know, we're not gonna make any decisions, but
Well-
we discuss.
Can I bring up our earmark now?
Yeah, so now I put that separately, but that's on there.
Okay, well, you know, we have the $50,000 of which 25 is for infrastructure, and we've been talking about the 2 meters. And the other 25 was for engineering or study, whatever you wanted. That money disappears on June 30th. So
Right.
by my calendar, we have 4 months left to figure out what we're doing. And I think,
I will talk to Jody's last message is I just spoke with the gentleman, at the executive office for administration and finance. There are some nuances distributing the funds depending on where they are. He's reviewing our earmarks and we are working together on the next steps. I will circle back when I have some information. The big question is, will these be reimbursements like the 350th was, or are they just gonna transfer the money and deposit it?
I believe it's a reimbursement.
I mean, I think for the meters, and that ties into the Talent Farm thing, we gotta get a contract, we gotta get this done.
Right, which I was going to bring up
We need the
today.
data.
If you've got 4 months, given all this supply chain crap going on, you know, I know you guys have been talking about what we need. We need to get a contract going and get the
Yeah.
thing working. I don't want to lose that money when we got, money available to pay for the 2 meters and not sock anybody for it. And if you really want to look at it, it's our state taxes anyway, so we might as well spend it. But we got 4 months, as of March 1st, we have 4 months left to spend it or lose it. I don't want to lose that money.
Yeah,
So I know you guys are working on a thing, but can,
yeah, we gotta get a contract. I can't
We came out of the gate like gangbusters.
get anybody to call me back. That's where we're,
Well,
you know,
we did get price at, I think cost us.
we got the meters. The meter's all set. All we need at this point is a proposal to put the meter in the ground. That's all we need.
Right.
and
So
who can do that?
give me some names. Hydrotech didn't return anything. Oh, yeah, we'll get back to you.
RH White, so they.
The company, well, RH White subbed it out, and the company that I can call the guy again, he was all, oh, yeah, I'll give you a call next week, and then, unfortunately, I haven't had a lot of time now in the last month or two getting park stuff ready, so I guess I can try and make another round of phone calls and see what we can get. I don't know if you have contractors you've worked with. The
Yeah.
Cape Road one's a crappy job, the Dudley Road one's a cakewalk.
And do we want to move that one?
I don't see how, so the way I see it, moving the Plains Road interconnect is $300,000 project.
That's out.
It would likely up the fire flows. It would likely be awesome to have a backup connection, like when this stuff breaks. And now everybody else will lose water and you guys will keep your water, but
Well, there's.
I don't see how we can spend $300,000, but Hopedale won't even let us, have a drop of extra water.
Well, I should say there's use for some of that ARPA money.
I guess I'm not
And the
bored.
deep-
I'd rather spend it on an interconnection with another town.
I agree, but at
Just
the
replace.
the very least, we can always give the other $25,000 towards matching the 150 for the study. And lower, what we need, as long as it's committed, the state's not gonna take it back. But I want to get those meters in and not lose this money because, I woke up the other day and I go, oh my God, we got 4 months left in the fiscal year. We're gonna lose that money. And granted, the state is finally getting around to tell us how to get the money. Which is their method of operation
Well,
because
we can,
they don't want to spend it.
yeah.
Just remember, if we don't spend it by June 30th, they don't, it goes into their surplus for next year. So the administration and finance guys, quite honestly, are more than happy to wait till like June 1st to tell us where it is. I mean, I'll be real honest. I mean, you know how the state budget game is played.
Yeah, well, I think,
Yeah, call me tomorrow.
Yeah.
I can have a day tomorrow.
well, so I get a meeting at 2, and then let's, if we can, I'll make some phone call that mass, whatever they were, mass installation again and tell them like we
If you get
see a
the-
price.
If you get the money right now in your budget, do it. That way they can get.
I would want to wait until we get word back from Jody, but I think
Yeah. But we'll know within a couple of weeks. She's pushing it.
Because also,
I'll send her another message and just say, hey, at least in terms of this 50,000, we need, at least need confirmation. If it's got a deadline, then we need this, like, let's get on the phone Monday with somebody.
What I was led to believe by Brian Murray when we got it was the same as the 350th money, spend it or lose it.
Yeah, well, then, but I've talked to Jody a couple times and they're not all like that. Other stuff, they just give us the money.
Okay.
no,
And then if we don't spend it, we have to return it.
The senior center money was the same thing,
Yeah.
spend it or lose it.
But
And they wound up spending it on paving the lot,
they got the money or was it reimbursement?
reimbursement.
yeah,
Mostly, yeah.
most of this money is like that.
But if you remember the 350th,
I remember.
the accountant let us set up and spend it because you knew it was guaranteed to come in. So basically, we spent that of the town's free cash.
Right, well, we're a little tight because of everything going on.
We should have signed some kind of a commitment or a contract with the state in order to attain the
That's what
funding.
they're just even doing now.
Okay, this is
That's-
usually how it works. You sign an agreement with the state.
Just finding out who that contact is.
Okay.
That's the
And we're,
problem.
we're,
When we had the
we have
money,
to wait the game now.
when we had the money for the 350th, when we had the 50,000 for the senior center, those contracts were signed within, I think, the budget was signed in like late July. And we had the contract signed in August or September.
We can make this happen, but it's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just getting to the point where I looked at the calendar and I said,
Yeah.
I don't want to see this money lost. Whether it's the A&F, whether it's us or anybody.
Who signed the paperwork? State, is it you?
I believe that would fall under the finance director's office.
Yeah. It's not.
contract with the town, not
I'm
us.
familiar with all the paperwork.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not a lot.
No.
It's something you gotta,
Well, I did the 350th one.
yeah.
It's just, and that's after the fact. It's just
And
paperwork.
I did the senior center one.
This is more, I think our biggest thing, and we can talk tomorrow, we need to get a contractor lined up and get a proposal.
Yeah.
Even if they can't do the work, at least having somebody lined up so we're ready
Yes.
to go.
I agree, yeah.
Even if the snow melts.
Yeah,
Even if it's lined up to go like in August, the state accepts that.
Yeah, I don't think it's a terrible, I mean, you have to get a detail, pay whatever, but it'll be all part of that,
Yeah, well, we'll have a
you know?
state police detail on 140.
Shut the water off. I mean, they're gonna have to like,
no guarantee on them, though. I know you've got this all the time. No guarantee if they tell you June 30th. You know, you could.
well, I'll get more
They could
information,
borrow
because I think
at a
we're.
time.
What I want to see is let the document get signed,
You're right. Yeah,
then we
that's
go
the
from
way
there.
it
But we're starting to count down, even if the document doesn't get signed till April 1st. Then we have 3 months, but just,
Get it done.
yeah, I mean, it's not really us, it's the state, it's everybody involved
Yeah,
in the
finance
plans.
director of the town,
I just hate to lose that kind of money.
especially when you don't have a lot of money to begin with.
Well, the other thing is, I mean, we're liable under the contract with the two meters. You really want to spread $30,000 cost around 153 users? No.
Especially when you get free money.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
I mean, yeah, I'm self-serving. I'm one of the users. I don't want to pay $400 a year for the next 10 years.
Yeah.
All right. So what else do we have on there?
Infrastructure, item 6.
Albert Farm Road. Well, for those who don't know, we've had 2, I won't say major, but sizable leaks on Talbot Farm Road. One in December and one in February. That all stem back to the way the pipe was put in. Yes.
Hi, I'm on Edward Road. No, I don't have it on my. Edward, yes, sorry. On the 18th of February, I turned my water on and I had very low water pressure. So I'm texting my neighbor across the street saying, gee, do you lose water pressure? And I'm running around my house seeing if I had a leak somewhere or something was going on. And didn't hear back from her, but then the water pressure came back. Oh, all right.
With a nice big air hammer in it.
No, really, it was just fine. And then a little while later, turned the water on, and it had gone down again. And my neighbor in the meantime is texting me, telling me that someone had emailed her husband to say, oh gee, there's a water leak over on Talbot Farm, but it's not going to affect you. Now, why did he get an email? I didn't. And then
So-
one, and number 2, why would you say that's not going to affect the water? If there's a leak, it's going to affect the water.
Dan?
So 2 things. So first of all, just so everybody's aware, basically, because our system is so small, anytime we open a hydrant, pressure goes to 0. I know I don't know if he's on the call, Mr. Hodge, because of where he is, he gets like some of the worst of it. It drops the whole system to 0. I will check right now. I sent an email to everyone whose address I had on file. So if you normally get stuff emailed, I do not have your email address. So you got,
That's why.
so if you give me your email address afterwards, I will add you to my list. That would be good.
Because you did send it out, I know on the first one. I don't remember seeing.
I do apologize. Unfortunately, what happened with this leak, just, I got a call from Tim at like 6 a.m.
That's the whole deal.
Their storage tank was dropping and the leak was so big, they couldn't keep up. So we spent the whole day Thursday running around trying to find it.
Yeah.
Had somebody come in, do an emergency thing, called Bras, it was the same exact thing. They were able to come the next morning. This would not have made it through the weekend, I think. They were reaching a point that they were gonna have to basically load shed Mendon.
Yeah, then turn us off.
This was a big leak, but I definitely will add you to the list and anybody else.
So just
Just
for
like I
my
do.
education, does the town of Mendon have like a reverse 911 or rave alert set?
So we do, and I started conversations with them about building a list for the water customers.
Right, yeah.
Unfortunately, that's one of those projects that hasn't quite come to completion because in the grand scheme of things, it's
Okay.
not high up the list.
Okay.
Yeah, but
It's something I've been working on.
Yeah, because I was gonna say, if the towns already got a list, maybe
I have some
Really
people,
off that list there.
so there is an option, if you go to Code Red, there's an option to sign up for water alerts. And
Yes.
then I have to send him data dump of the info
Okay.
we have, and it just,
But for instance,
until this issue, we're not gonna, we
If-
haven't needed it, of course.
if you're on the email list right now, you'll even get an email telling you the building's in.
Right.
Yeah, so I'll add you, that's good to know.
So Dan, here's another thought. Maybe we could put something on the next quarterly bill. If you want to sign up for an emergency alert message or something like that.
Yeah, we did it, you know what, we did this before,
Well, let's do it again.
a while ago, and then
Yeah.
I actually, like, I kind of forgot all about it, and this is the first time we've really needed to.
But yeah,
Do a
that's good.
big
I'm
alert.
glad you brought that up tonight, man.
Yeah.
Because everybody should get the word.
Yeah.
It's not the ones that are gonna take a shower or something.
Well, I don't know, I was trying to cook my birthday dinner, you know, it's just.
No, I-
Well, the other issue candidly is, because it's basically giant sand pit, soil quality up in Pellet Farm. When we had the big leak on Hartford Avenue 4 or 5 years ago, that went on for almost a year before Hopedale. Interesting, we had a big meeting with the select board, Hopedale, and our board, and mysteriously Hopedale found a 1 million gallon leak the next morning. After we were paying for it for a year, but the two on Pellet Farm. You know, you always see pictures on the evening news of the watering in the city and the roads collapsed and all that. Well, here, because the base is sand, it just goes straight down to the ground. And we have to find it with the guy with the hearing machine. It's like, well,
This one, you couldn't even hear it on the
Yeah,
highway.
water's gonna go point of least resistance. So, you know, most areas, the ground's so dense and hard that the water's gonna push up through, and you'll see it.
right.
Here, it's all
It just,
furry, it's
Yeah.
gravel, it just sucks all that water
you
away.
just, you know, in both cases, this is PVC pipe. Instead of, well, let's just say instead of,
Here, I can put this.
they got it through curves by bending the pipe. And the pipes have what we call a bell joint where they're connected. And in both leaks, the pipe where it was bent ruptured. And so we had to dig up and put caps on it. We'd love to let everybody
I
know.
got some pictures,
Well, that would be
and I
great,
think Bruce
because
has to get them.
It's sinking and everything, and the water just goes down.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'll show you the picture.
It's marshy in my area.
Yep.
And so like I.
yeah, with the water main breaks work, you've been on Telton Farm Road, it's right on the curve. And so the contractor, rather than put a bend in, he was shooting on the pipe. He put the pipe in the ground, he put the bottom behind it to get it around that turn.
They basically bent it over the length of the
And so
pipe.
when you do that, it's like taking this table and bending it, you're stressing that out.
And
over
20 years or
time,
30
it's gonna
years
break.
later.
Yeah, it's gonna.
So
that's what happened.
this, you can almost see this tiny little bit of black rubber. That's where it blew the seal out, and it's dry as a bone.
Yeah.
Until they, let me sit back in, until they like actually, that's, they cut the pipe to get to the leak, but you can see it, I somewhere I had a picture. It blows the seal out and then it starts leaking. But this is only after we cut the pipe. Pictures. So that's the repair.
Yeah, I don't,
So they cut the bell joint right up.
But it's like unbelievable. The first time, I mean, there was nothing and they're going deeper and deeper. It just goes straight down.
yeah, just, I sympathize with not getting noticed. I'll also tell you, even though I'm on the
No,
board.
if I wasn't on the list, there's.
No, but I'll also tell you, even though I'm on the board and I live on Cape Road. The first leak in December, I had no air pressure problems. When the system came back, no dirty water. The second one, let's just say someone used the toilet in my house and flushed and that air hammer.
Oh, blue top, the tank, right?
The water came right out of the hole up in the air with the water, the air.
Yeah, yeah,
And
I've seen that before.
my daughter's standing there going, what did I
Scared
do?
to tell.
And then I come running because she's screaming and I turn on all the faucets and
Just
the
to
air's
release all the
going out.
air.
I said, it's the leak that we had.
How is the air getting into the front end of the system like that? Because that's like so far, you know, we know what Kevin,
No, what happens,
because we did a really good, much better job this
Yeah,
time.
it has
I'm a good half mile
when you
away.
cut into the pipe and drain the pipe,
Right,
obviously it's full of air, right? And you
Yeah.
push, you try to push all the air out of the hydrant when you're
Right.
done, but you don't get it all out. There's a little bit of air that's gonna remain on the ceiling of the pipe, and that, it's like a big air bubble. And that air bubble over time will travel.
It
If
sure
some of
is.
it gets dissolved in the water and you'll see milky water over time. Ken knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
But
that's what-
sometimes that air bubble will just travel down the pipe and eventually,
I must have freed it.
it'll come through people's water services. So when you draw water, it's like, with a
Yeah,
straw,
interesting.
sucking it in.
I'm just surprised it, so it went all the way back. So I guess that's why you didn't have any air in your water, Alan.
I got it all.
Well, it had a little bit of
Yeah.
air when I turned the pipe on and.
You know, it's funny, because normally I'll turn all the faucets in the house on when that happens.
Yeah.
That one thing just blew the house out.
That's funny.
I think Bruce had a hand up too. I'm sorry, I just see that now. But, oh, you get on mute, Bruce.
Sorry, I had my microphone on mute. I was just waiting for you folks to finish. My only comment was it's sort of addressed to Dan. I'm not really sure if, Dan, you're part of the board or not, but I would certainly hope that you wouldn't be in any, if you talk to Hopedale, that you're not in any further communication with Blue Water. Kevin, this probably be one of the few times I'd agree with you, but there shouldn't be anything with Blue Water in front of the board or on the board's plate. You made your case with Hopedale back on January 13th or whenever it was for them. I didn't feel that was correct, but you went ahead and did it. And it's not up to you guys, as you correctly stated, that, you don't approve the project or not. But you shouldn't be having anything to do with Blue Water other than saying, go to Hopedale, you're on your own. I think that's what should have been done back in January, and I just hope that there's no further communication. They're on their own.
It's up to them to come back to us.
That's correct.
Right. That's the point I made earlier today.
I think, I think in terms of the process, so Hopedale has made it very clear over the years, they will not talk to anybody but Mendon about stuff in Mendon. So
We have to go.
just like they came to us, we brought it up on their behalf. And like you said, if that's it, then
And we brought the
That's
guy, we brought the guy who bought Myla Thayer's house on the corner of Bates and 140 to Hopedale 2-3 years ago. When it was, I can't remember the builder who was gonna, at that time, and they turned him down. It's our
Yeah.
job to bring him there because that's what Hopedale Board wants, but then we're done. It's up to Hopedale to decide.
Well, in
Yeah.
this case, I would disagree in this case because they're not on the contract. The lot's not on the contract. But that's a point of disagreement. That's all it is. I've made my comment and we'll leave it at that.
I'll just reply because you did make a pointed comment about me at that meeting, and I was actually quite angry about it. But what I will say is anything that could benefit Hopedale monetarily, it's our advantage to bring to them because we are at their mercy and we'd like to have good relations with them.
Yep,
It does not mean
that's
they're
perfectly fine. And
It does not mean
and
we're advocating for a project. It means we're doing our job as commissioners to protect the water supply coming into the town of Mendon from Hopedale. And I'll leave it at that.
yep. And I would just say that, under the Massachusetts Conflict of Interest law, anybody who goes and gives the appearance of advocating for something else, advocating for another entity, you're serious problem. Maybe, in your
Then file a complaint, but otherwise I ask you to not repeat that again. It's absolutely untrue and I dislike it. And if you really feel that way, file a complaint, sir. Otherwise, cease and desist or my lawyer will approach you. Period.
That's fine. That's your opinion. You're entitled to it.
I've served this town for 38 consecutive years come May without a taint of anybody until you ever accusing me of anything, and I won't take it. I'm just letting you know, if you think you can roll over and play Donald Trump and accuse me of crap, I'm not taking it. Period. I've already retained a lawyer on it, just so you know. So I ask you, keep your opinion to yourself or file a formal complaint and I'll respond, period. Sorry to talk to you that way. But you just can't go around making wild ass accusations about people that you don't know their background or anything about. Excuse me, Mr. Chairman.
Have you disposed of the Talbot Farm Road leak for the moment?
Yeah, well, we need to buy some pieces of PVC in case it happens again.
Yes, so I spoke with Ben about just, so apparently one of the big issues they're finding is 8-inch PVC is very difficult to obtain.
Now,
The nearest, well, I think, yeah, for some reason, the nearest,
It's not always.
they had it compass.
That's what's happening.
So it sounds like it would be in our interest to purchase a length of 6, 8, and a minimum 8-inch PVC. That's the big one, because Talbot's all 8. But I think we've got some 6 and some 12-inch. I think you would say just buy a length of each
Correct, yeah.
and shove it in the corner somewhere, so we've got it.
Because we have so much 8-inch system, 8-inch pipe in the system, yeah, it would be a bad idea to actually have 2 lengths of 8-inch in inventory, just be a better.
It's an all PVC.
Yeah,
What sounds like your recommendation was that
yeah, my
that would be
recommendation
used to repair even asbestos cement, you can cut it out and replace it with a section of PVC pipe.
correct, yes.
Yeah.
All it is a transition coupling to make that.
Right.
repair.
it's part of the problem with at least the December leak. I'm not sure the February leak was getting the pipe.
Yeah, they found one piece shoved in the corner in the back with the bell end broke off, and it was what they wanted. And they actually used that again. They used the rest of it on this job.
Yeah.
So the potential thing, and I think this is something we're going to have to do over time. It looks like, I'm just checking again, so 26 times 20, we're looking at about $520 for an 18, 20-foot length of pipe.
Yeah.
So I think I would, if it were up, my suggestion would be that we, let's get a piece of the 8-inch now, because that's the
Yes.
pressing
Totally
need.
agree.
And then let's give it towards the end of the year, we can reevaluate how the accounts are looking.
I-
Because these leaks are going to push us pretty close to breaking even on this.
I couldn't agree more.
The other thing I would say in the interim, if we get into a gym, God forbid it was to happen again, we don't have any inventory of that stuff. One of the things that you can do, just reach out to any surrounding community. Say Milford's probably the best bet. Bellingham maybe as well. As far as having just some pipe, a piece of pipe that we get us out of the
Yeah.
gym.
Well, they had it in Cumberland. It just would have been,
I'm not saying that,
You know,
get
dry.
it for our inventory right now, but if we were to get
Yeah.
into a jam because we had a water main break and we needed something in a pinch, that's what I would do, mutual aid, that's what we do.
I think-
It seems like a silly question, but where do we store it?
well, so that is the next
I would
step.
imagine.
I need to have probably what we'd end up doing is it would go up in Inman Hill.
And there's 2 obvious
those
choices. One is
Buildings up there.
store it somewhere near the highway barn or something, or store it at the dealer's. We own it, but the dealer has it on.
Yeah, I think we should just store it. I think we will find somewhere to put it. It would probably have to go at Inman Hill.
One of the challenges we have though, Alan, having a pipe, especially with the PVC pipe, you can't leave it outdoors because the UV, actually,
again?
the UV, the sunlight actually weakens the pipe over time. You're probably familiar with that anyways. So, store that pipe anywhere. It's gonna be under. Just one of the challenges.
Presumably you want to store it someplace where it's not the sun.
Right.
I mean, again, very long-term outside the purview of this board. Ultimately, we're trying to get a facility built for parks. And if I would, so that's an option, but that's an easy problem to solve. I think, and then it sounded like we should probably buy, I hesitate because we're not the ones doing the work. If it's worth buying those Hynex couplings to sit on the shelf, or let Brazek, because again, they're $500 a piece.
Right, yeah, when you call on a contract, they're not gonna have these pods in
Right.
their inventory either. They've got a backhoe, a dump truck and things like that.
That's the only difference between Whitewater and, Whitewater probably does have access to some of this.
Right.
The difference is we would have paid 5 guys $100 an hour the whole time to sit there.
It sounds like we used to have 2 claims.
Well, that's what these things are. So you get short term, I think we should buy a length of pipe and guess 2 couplings. You
Yeah.
get about $1,000.
I agree.
and then come back in June and see where we're at. And
I agree, and, unfortunately, given the age parts of the system, I voiced this to you, Dan, I'm just hoping nothing else on Talbot Farm goes, given the way those bends were done. I joke with Mr. Brazo that he's gonna have an annuity based on us, because, I drove the road afterwards and looked at all the bends going, 1, 2, 3, how many more places can this blow?
Yeah, especially there, it's a new.
Well, so can I
it's
ask
a development.
another question.
It's over
related.
30 years old.
The leak,
That's not old.
the leak
That's
on
not old.
November,
When it comes to pipe.
on Hartford
It's
Ave,
over 50 years old.
was that at a joint as well?
Don't know.
Because over there, so we had a dig safe come in for a utility pole, and I realized, I don't know where I think the water main is actually under the shoulder of the road there, like literally right next to those poles.
No, it appears, it's.
I mean, look, the
Still
valve is
looking
in.
for where the valves are and stuff. It appears that the water main is, maybe 18 inches, 2 feet, into the road from the curb.
Okay, that makes me feel better.
I'm trying to remember.
Did they have to cut the road to do that repair?
I can't remember because there was a truck parked in front of it. And the backhoe was on the side of the road. I couldn't tell exactly where the pipe was when they fixed that. I just remember going down the next day when they were digging it up and patching it. And saying, okay, they got it and they're working on it. I never got a chance to get out and look because the traffic was so bad there. And I seem to remember there was a police detail there. And I just didn't want to pull over on the side of the road and stick my nose in. Where on Talbot, it's a lot easier, park further down the road like I did both times and go out and observe the job site. There's a sidewalk. I'm not in the middle of a busy road.
And the only thing I have to judge by is the valve covers up 2 houses or 3 houses where the pipe comes in from the other road. There's appear to be 3 valves and a valve for the fire hydrant. And they're all a little bit of ways from the curb, not much. a
Yeah,
little bit.
but they're in. I'm talking, so when then it turns 90 degrees and goes down Hartford Ave East. And I think it doesn't even go under the road. I think it's under the shoulder, like up right next to the utility.
That's
pole,
probably true, I think.
Yeah, why dig up the pavement if you don't have to? It's still within the public right of way.
Yeah, I'm just trying to,
Well, if you're looking for a vote on buying this stuff, I'll make a motion to.
well, I did reach out to, EJP. I haven't heard back yet. I have to call them. I don't know why they put email things on the website. They didn't respond.
I'll second that motion for it.
And in the claims.
And a clap. Yeah.
So we're getting a length
Could you
of
give me your email?
8-inch. Or if you want to email me. Watercom@mma.gov.
You just have a piece of paper right again.
Yeah, it's, no, actually, here, hang on, no, we're just gonna type it in thing, so what is it? Shipping here. It's
I know, it was embarrassing, didn't know what street it lived on.
this one, okay.
It's,
I,
Didn't want her email getting recorded, okay, you're on the list now.
let everybody know. All right, great, thank you so
Awesome,
much.
okay, good to know. Yeah, I know, like,
Can I interrupt for a second?
of course you can.
You mentioned earlier that the land behind where they want to put this warehouse was a 40B housing.
Way back, I don't remember what the
the
land
land
where.
where it's gonna go, this gristmill. There's gonna be so many units of housing, senior housing.
With affordable units in it.
But you were saying that it was interfering with the flight plan for the whole airport?
Because of the height.
Okay, and this warehouse wouldn't fall into that category?
Oh, it's not gonna be 3 stories.
Well, they've talking 4. I've heard 40 feet high, meant 4 stories.
I thought what killed the housing was the fact that he was all good to go and then
And he lost
it was
the
right
floor.
when the shit hit the fan with Hopedale and Milford dumped us. And they wouldn't, Hopedale would not allow any new connections then.
And Abe didn't have the connection for Hopedale that he had with Milford.
Right.
This is on,
The Chris, Witten Road, all that.
What's concerning me is that, the airport is in the flight path of the airport. I mean, taking off, I mean, you live right there, so you should know, how close, especially the twin engine that comes in.
I'm just remembering what I heard, and this is going back almost 40 years ago. That was just when I moved into town, that was getting shot down. And I think I was in town maybe somewhere in the late 80s is when Milford yanked out. I'm trying to remember.
Oh, it's in the minutes, hang on.
But the flight path was one of the issues that was concerning with the town boards at the time. Nobody wanted it built down, so people brought up the flight path.
Well, it should be a concern.
You had a former selectman, who at the time was the selectman, who was very active on the finance committee, who lived right on Hartford Avenue, and she kept bringing up the flight path issue.
I do too. I mean, the planes fly over my house.
2004.
basically, you can't build anything right next to off the end of the runway. or
And this was far
like
enough
a-
back,
something.
and they were leaving that field directly across the runway vacant. That was the issue. But I can't remember back.
Because in 1974, there was a plane crash where the kids got killed.
There was also a plane crash in the field right across the runway in the 79 or 80. Because I know I went, the guys were from Rhode Island, and I sold a photo of it to Providence Journal.
One of the kids that was killed was a cousin to a girl I went to school with.
Yeah,
But the thing is that they're saying that they don't come down at tree level. Well, they do. And I mean, just, they come over my house. I have the helicopter. I can hear the helicopter coming when they're doing maneuvers. And listen, my house shakes when he goes over.
you don't have to tell me.
I'm not sure.
I have all
whether-
little things in my curio cabinet.
My house shakes. I can tell you at night.
You know whether that's a news helicopter or a
It's not.
state or
No,
what?
it's the military.
It's also, they also do the electric utility flies the gas pipeline to the gas power plant in Bellingham. in the air. I can tell you the difference between all the motor carriers going to the junkyard at night, all night long, and the Amazon 18-wheelers. Because the Amazon wheelers, my house starts shaking when they're up at the traffic light and doesn't end till they're down near Lowell's.
Mhm.
And they run at 1 o'clock every morning. Amazon's running a van by my house and everybody's up. You wake up, the whole house shakes.
I have it from the airplanes and the helicopters. You can be out on my deck and between the race car place revving their engines, the soccer field with the kids screaming and hollering.
I have to tell you, the lights from the soccer field did what was promised and tend to shine directly down. But I'm in my house. Now, I'm directly across from Sandy's
Yeah.
old office,
Mhm.
the Little White Cave. I can have the TV on a Saturday in the winter with the windows shut. And I can hear those crowds screaming over the TV for the soccer.
And I get lights into my dining room.
Although they're now shifting the majority of them, they just built a domed stadium in Marlboro. And I'm told by friends whose kids play soccer there, they're shifting the majority of people up there. Because they don't want their kids playing in the cold and hot anymore.
And then we have the helicopters, the little Black Hawks flying over, and I can hear the firing range. But then when you're out.
I don't hear the firing range, even though I know where it is, beyond the highway mark.
And you could be sitting out on my deck on a summer day and all of that going on at one time. You think you're in a war zone.
What I think is funny is 'cause I go all the way down to the river. When I walk all the way down to the river, I no longer hear 140. I hear Hartford Avenue echoing, and you know the concrete plant. I hear the mixing down on the river. That comes right up Hartford Avenue east and goes sideways, and I have the Dunkin' Donuts warehouse on the other side of the river. It is what it is. I mean, the fact is, something's gonna get built on that site. Personally, I don't think this thing's gonna get built. I think it's too big for the site, too many obstacles.
But we can't get the trucks to the intersection. Fire department can't handle if there is a fire there. Mendon, they may be very qualified firefighters, I'm not saying that. There's just not enough of them. I mean, look, if there was a fire, 2 months ago in Everett, a warehouse area.
Well, do you remember when the lumberyard went up?
No, I don't.
What Gasco was used to be Westwood Lumber,
Yes. Mhm.
and that whole thing went up. All the lumber sheds went up. That was 7 different fire departments for 12 hours to put that out. And then they never restored that, and then HRH bought it and turned it into the gas station.
I don't remember that. No, what year did that happen? My parents bought the house in 79 and then
That was in the 80s, late 70s or 80s.
parents bought the house in 79 and
Might have been 80,
2008.
might have been 80, 81. I'm trying to remember.
So we have like 2 other things left. And then
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
it's every water board meeting.
But
Somehow
candidly,
we
I don't think that thing
Get
should
into
get
the
built.
history of everything, 'cause it's all connected, it really is.
It really is.
Yeah, no, I don't know.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I'll apologize. No, you're a voter. We're bored.
Thank you.
What else?
Have a good night, man.
Thank you. You too.
All right, so we're gonna buy a length of pipe, the 2 couplings for now, and then
Yeah, I believe you took a vote on that.
I still need to get,
You can skip C.
I gotta get a gate wrench and a tool to clean out some valves. Yeah, C we already talked about.
Yeah,
Billing.
Billing is just a placeholder. The only thing, and this turned into less of a discussion than I thought it was gonna be, because it turns out there was some misunderstanding, which we can tell you some other time, but I just wanted to kind of, so our policy right now, like, if you had a water connection and you drill a well, in our regulations, it basically says disconnections are at our discretion. I'm not really clear, like, if Hopedale would stop charging us, so we pay so many instances of that capital fee to Hopedale.
Yes.
So like that house on Mill River, 4, they have a well, they are not connected, they don't pay capital fees, they are not included in the count of capital
No.
fees.
in number 3.
Yeah, the one on the
It
right.
turns out when I moved in there in, 2003 or something, they were on the water system. And when the regulations became that you couldn't water your lawn, they said, oh, hell, I want to water my lawn. So they dug a well and disconnected from the sound system.
Oh, so we are or not, we're not getting the capital fee.
So we are not being charged the capital fee by Hopedale, so therefore we're not charging them.
Did we give up the connection?
So this is what's interesting, and there's like a mix of what we've done, and I just more was, because I thought somebody, and I think we we're gonna have a conversation about somebody wanting to disconnect. Hang on, I want to pull up the list just to verify who is it. So like Mill River, hang on. That property, I had it listed on the contract, crossed out, it says deactivated 2009. There's a property on Talbot Farm that is not listed on the contract, does not have an account number, was deactivated years ago. There's another one that is crossed out. I mean, because the thing that's kind of curious about this, let's say their well is contaminated. DEP is going to order us to turn that connection back on. There's no way, the water's right there.
Not if Oakdale says we can't.
I think that's a situation where DEP is going to make it happen and they're not going to be able to say no. But
When somebody discontinues, do we notify Oakdale?
I have no idea because it hasn't ever happened. So 14 Talbot,
Yes.
they have a well for years. They have just paid the minimum $30 flat charge or the new charge and the capital fee. And the few times she's asked about disconnecting, I think the message from the board was, well, if you disconnect, we might take you off the contract and you could be gone for good.
Sure.
So I didn't know, and I think, so that property sold, and I'm gonna have to have a conversation with the new owners on what do they want. I mean, there's no meter in that basement, the pipe is cut.
This is number 3.
This is, sorry,
No,
14 Talbot.
Well, here's the question. How was it advertised when they bought it?
Well, I think that's irrelevant. The question is, we would need to apply to Hopedale, assuming they don't want to keep paying these fees to keep that connection active for a rainy day. we would need to ask Hopedale if they're gonna, if that's okay, we'll prove that this is disconnected. Remove one capital fee. Our regulations talk about potentially requiring, well test records, which who knows if that was done back when that well was put in.
It's the Board of Health's job.
Well, I'm thinking we want to make sure they have a potable well. We don't allow a disconnection to find out it's, over the limit for this, that, and the other thing.
But the question is, does Hopedale then strike us down one?
I don't know, and
Take it off.
I was hoping to ask Tim that, and then I didn't connect with them because the few times it
If-
happened
if-
was
if-
probably pre-Hopedale.
If I were Hopedale right now, and we said somebody disconnected, if I were them, I'd strike it off the contract and not let us replace it. If I were them.
Correct.
Is that what our contract reads, that anybody who disconnects from the water,
Contract makes no
we
mention.
lose that connection, we can't.
The
pass that
contract,
Connection to anybody else?
the contract is silent. The contract just said it's lot specific and has a list of approved lots.
Okay,
Okay.
but it doesn't talk about if somebody disconnects and we could add another lot.
No, we tried that.
We can't
Thinking
get
it was the total. We'll close this one and open that one. Oh, no, if it says 20 Main Street, it's 20 Main Street.
Okay,
You
so-
split 20 Main and make 22, too bad.
So is 14 Talbot on the list of approved lots?
14 Talbot is on a list of approved lot sheets. They are currently being charged or we're being charged. So I think that's a situation we're probably gonna have to have them come to a meeting. If it comes up, I don't know. It hasn't closed yet.
I tell them the same story, which is if you want to get off it, you may never get it back.
And the
Right.
other person that brought this to mind, and I think it got dropped, is 143, 145 Hartford Ave East. Because he's essentially paying for 2 water connections that he basically can't use.
Yeah.
Because,
The house that is no longer there
Yes.
has a water connection and they pay the fees and everything.
So the guy from the North Shore that bought Dick Skinner's old house is paying for that connection right now?
well, so, it's better than that. So, yeah, because they're paying 2 connections, both lots, tore the houses down.
Yep.
After 2 years, it's no longer whatever. That's the highway, the commercial zone. Residential housing is prohibited by right, so he can't rebuild the houses and the water can only be used for houses. That's like a mess over there.
Well, let's see, he even bought it without checking.
I mean, I have
Yeah.
multiple times advised him he
With-
needs
well,
to come to this board.
With
and talk to
all,
us.
with all due respect,
But
what
anyway,
kind of guy drops 1.2 million on a corner lot without bothering to check anything about it? And just assume there are water and sewer there?
Somebody who isn't too smart.
I mean, with all due respect, I deal with people buying 1.3 and 1.5 million dollar houses every day in Holliston and then complain that they have septic systems.
I guess my suggestion,
They want an abatement on their taxes because they don't have sewers. I'm like, you didn't check when you paid 1.6 million?
It's what it is, what it is.
so
If you didn't investigate, that's your problem.
for any of these, I
You
think
have no idea, dumb people.
separate the local. So like, we have in our regulations that if, like, because we did it to Brazza, if a property is disconnected, in order, the connection fee to reconnect is, I think we said it's $100 a year up to a maximum of 1,000. It's essentially, you're paying us for those back 10 years that
Yes.
you would have paid. So if Hopedale agreed to stop charging their capital fee, would we be open to just say, you know what? We won't charge you, but when you go to turn it back on, you're gonna pay us that. So pay us monthly or pay it all up front.
I would just rather tell the people,
Or,
you have something very precious that very few people have in the town. If you want to stop paying for it and disconnect it,
Hmm.
the likelihood is you'll never get it back. That could affect when you sell the house in the future.
true,
And I would tell the people to just keep paying for it and don't use it.
I mean, I don't know, and it's different, the 14 Talbot is a totally different discussion versus a commercial lot, I think, but anyway, no, so, because I thought they wanted to disconnect, turns out they want.
What's Hopedale gonna do when my for sale sign goes up next year? 3 acres of commercial property for sale by owner.
Well, don't tear the house down.
Actually, I'm about to build an addition up to it.
The zoning gets, but anyway, so I just wanted, I thought it was whatever, and then it turned to be something else, but it's something just, we might have to talk about.
All right, update on billing.
That's just a placeholder, I'll do it
Okay.
today. the next reading.
Do policy for discussion, for disconnections.
That was,
How was that? We're done.
Yeah.
the only other thing I do want to mention, and it needs more research. After the last disaster, I think we should explore getting, so they make 2.5-inch potable fire hose, like flat hose, but it's safe for potable water. Comes in 50-foot lengths. It's very expensive,
What do you want to do with it?
but it occurred to me, so
Run the bypass or.
for bypasses, so like
Connection.
at Plains Road, if we put a hydrant across the road,
There is
pay
one
for
over
it.
there.
No, our hydrant on the far side. You could then run hydrant to hydrant from our hydrant to Hopedale's hydrant with our 2.5-inch meter. And now we could have backfed that whole system and they wouldn't have lost their water for 8 hours.
Well, the one thing that occurs to me is you have to protect the hose with 2x4s or something. If you're gonna do that, but.
Well,
that's
you'd run it on the side of the road, out of traffic. I mean, it's $300 a length if it gets run over and by another length. It would be very temporary during the day. And the other option is that Bellingham point. We have a hydrant. Bellingham has a hydrant. They're about 500 feet apart. We got the meter. That's another emergency internet connect point. Or if we had to bypass one of our sections. Because if let's say we had a problem further up, we might want to cut off the whole back half and though everybody on Talbot loses water, at least they could keep their water while we fix 8th Street. So I would be nice to see if there was a grant out there. It'd be about $5,000 for the hose. And again, where the heck we can store
Again,
it?
we're sitting there on $1.8 million of ARPA money
Something to.
that can only be used for water and sewer. And at some point, we need to have the conversation with the select board and say, hey, I don't know what you're gonna use it for, but we could use it today.
Well, maybe, I mean, as part of, we should find out what it would cost to have extend the main and put a hydrant right on the other side of Hartford Ave East at the corner of Plains Road. Because that solves the crossing. You know,
And
Well, I
heard
don't think
it
there's any
was
grant money available for what you're talking about, but
with MVP stuff, I'm thinking.
it's Kevin just said though,
Yeah,
there's all kinds of ARPA money. up there.
What is it?
You know?
Okay, we've asked for it twice already, and then, yeah, no response.
Yeah.
we
What
do
they
have to
wanna
go to
spend-
them with the thing.
What do they want to spend it on?
The conversation I had with Kim at that meeting, they see it being spent on water and sewer. But I think they're looking for, we need, so if we go to them and say, we want $7,000 to do X, that will get approved. They're not just gonna put the $7,000, the 1.8 million in the enterprise fund. That's never happened.
Right, but why can't we just say, we need X to do this?
Why is that? So I think that's the
Or
outcome. We should-
Jack needs another 150 to study, why don't we take it out of the ARPA money?
Yeah, I agree.
Well, that's what I'm gonna tell them. I think circle back to that discussion and we'll say, I think the water board feels that let's get the 150 and get it done.
Well, I think we should tell them.
I think that's the biggest thing, because ultimately a study's gonna give you some direction, it's gonna give us some
Right.
choices to make.
At least the study will say, this is what's possible, this is what's not, and everybody can stop speculating every 3 years. Let's connect with this town, let's do that,
Yeah.
let's do that, let's do that.
Consultant's gonna flush all this stuff out. Advantages, disadvantages, the cost.
I mean, we own so much damn conservation, land. How do we know we're not sitting on water
Yeah.
on top of it?
Yeah,
The piece behind the highway barn, Muddy Brook is running right through that.
Yeah, I don't know.
What's under Muddy Brook? What if you go down 150, 200 feet down?
Mm.
It's just interesting.
especially if it's all gravel.
By the way, I gotta bring you over to Holliston someday so you can see how their meters work.
Of their meters or?
The water meters are radio telemetry.
Oh,
You don't go out and read them.
yeah.
They report to an antenna on top of their water tower. And they just download the information daily.
They're gonna flex net,
Yeah, we can.
program it, retrieves all the reads.
All right, so I think that's in one of Jim.
Yeah, I was worried a little bit about the security of that stand operation, but.
Yeah, they're just putting in another $8 million water treatment plant. What?
All right, so was there anything else?
No, we just adjourned.
Oh, that was that.